Hello, everybody, and welcome to our special Google Hangout on Air. I'm Sunny Galt with the New Mommy Media Network. Thanks so much for joining us. We love doing these live Google Hangouts. We do podcasts in addition to this, but it's great to connect with you guys via video. And so today we're talking about power struggles with our kids. And it's a very important topic. I'm sure all you parents out there are thinking, yeah, I know what that's all about, right? So we're going to get some answers as to why our kids are doing this. Before we do that, I just want to say that this is a special Hangout in connection with the Parent Connection, as well as Scripps Health. We love partnering with them. If you are in the San Diego area, please check out the Parent Connection and become a member. Consider it. They have a lot of great things happening in the San Diego area, a lot of great resources for new parents, play dates, meetups, lots of good information from experts. And so we're really proud to team up with them. Let's go ahead and meet our expert, Jackie Hartman. I'd like to introduce her. She's actually been on our Google Hangouts in the past, so she's a recurring expert. Jackie, tell us a little bit about yourself.
Hi, Sunny. How are you?
Great.
A little bit about myself is that I'm a certified parent instructor and a life and family coach, and I've been teaching parenting curriculums for about 17 years now. But I believe my greatest credential is that I'm a mother of two spirited boys.
We were talking a little bit earlier, and one of those boys actually had to go and get a cast on his arm today. So spirited is, I think that was the last hangout we did, was talking about spirited children. So Jackie knows all about that. Okay, well, let's go ahead and dive into it. I know there's a lot of good information we want to get to today. So we're talking about power struggles. Jackie, when we say power struggle, what exactly is that? What is a power struggle?
Well, they happen every day in all of our homes, and it's between parent and child, between partners, colleagues, everywhere. We even see it on the road, right? And so what a power struggle is two people locked in battle with their own positions. It's like, I look at it as like a tug of war. So somebody says, I want this, and the other person says no. So they're very common. We can power struggle over just about everything, especially with our children.
I was just going to say, absolutely. And so when it comes to our kids, so when do kids usually start these power struggles? At what age are we seeing this happen?
Well, we usually see it around this, I call it the terrific two period. That's a developmental stage when these children start to become independent and want autonomy. And that's when you really start to see this personality come out in these power struggles.
And then how long does this last? Are we talking about all through childhood here, or is there a time you were talking about earlier, adults experience this? Are we talking about starting at 2 and for the rest of our lives really going through this?
Well, this is what happens. That's why it's such an important skill to understand how we get into them, how we get out of them, what we need to do. Because yes, adults, like I was saying, even adults get into these power struggles.
All right. So what typically happens in a power struggle between an adult and a child?
Okay. So the typical power struggle is that each party, the parent and the child, have their own position on something. It might be something like, I want ice cream for breakfast, and the parent says no. Okay. That's number one. Then the next thing that starts to happen is, I call it the intensity begins to rise, and that's emotional intensity. And emotions start to run high on both sides, and we start to get locked in. And the parent, I love this because this is how we truly diagnose a power struggle. It's how we feel as parents. So generally, if you've ever been in one, you start to feel provoked and challenged, and maybe you hear yourself thinking, because I said so, or I'm the parent, right? We start to get kind of in this autocratic position. And sometimes we might think, because I'm a lot older than you and you're only 2, right? So, but the child, on the other hand, we have to think about their feelings. They feel over-controlled and overpowered. And the ultimate result of power struggle, Sunny, is that our relationship with our child is affected. We aren't connecting like we need to connect.
I have a 2-year-old, actually just a little bit over 2, who's going through a power struggle right now. She is a twin. And so her twin is fine. I hardly ever have any issues with her, but her twin sister, absolutely. And she just pushes me. And I keep thinking it's going to get better. But so this hangout is for me, I guess, is what I'm trying to say. I need to learn how to manage her a little bit. Yeah.
Sunny, you mentioned something interesting, because when you talk about twins like that, one of the big factors is temperaments. Okay, and there's a temperament trait called persistence, and those people who score high in persistence, that is fuel for power struggles.
All right. Well, what are some of the reasons parents get into these power struggles with our kids?
Well, I think it's important for us to understand as parents, children have some basic needs. Rudolf Dreikers, he's a renowned social psychologist. He talked a lot about that. And children's needs are basic: to belong, to feel loved, to feel powerful, to feel valuable, to be heard and understood. And in power struggles, okay, the key things are, there's two needs there: the need of feeling powerful and to be heard and understood. Those are the ones that are affected. And kids will get their needs met either appropriately or inappropriately, and a lot is how we teach them to get those needs met. Okay. So that's one thing we have to parents have to understand about the power struggles. And then also the temperament piece that I had mentioned is the persistence. So if we have persistent kids, that plays a major role, and we have to understand how to discipline within that persistence. Okay. And then the other major piece that we have to understand is that there are triggers for children. Okay. And it's two things that I like to talk about. One is persistent children, or children in general, do not want to hear no. I mean, as adults, we don't want to hear no. And you're right. And the other thing is, when people, and small people we're talking about, feel that their interests aren't being understood, then they get upset. So those two, the triggers of saying no, they feel overpowered, so that need to feel powerful, okay? And the second one, when their interests aren't understood, they don't feel heard and understood. So that's the bottom line to some power struggles.
Do all parents go through this with their kids? It's just at different levels, because I'm thinking about my kids, and I feel like there are times, obviously, we're going to kind of struggle a little bit. And I realize I'm going through this more with some of my kids than other kids. I've got 4 total. So I remember, when they were about the 2-year-old age, my firstborn was just pushing me. My secondborn, we go through some stuff here and there, but it's not nearly what it was with my first. So am I understanding that correctly, that we all go through this? It's just, how difficult is the situation with that specific child?
Absolutely. There are power struggles in every household across America every day. But some of us who have spirited children, they are just more intense, more persistent. So we get into way more power struggles with them.
All right. So the big question is, now we know we're going to get into these power struggles. So what do we do to mitigate the situation or get out of these power struggles with our kids?
Right. Well, one of the first things you have to do when we locked in, and like I said, we know when we're locked in, the intensity's rising. And so we have to sidestep. Instead of locking in, we have to sidestep the power struggle. That's the major thing first. And we have to start to think about putting ourselves in their situation. We have to understand, what is their position? What is it that they want? And why do they want that? What are their interests? And then the first thing I ask myself in that situation, and every parent should do this when you're in a power struggle, say, how do I give my child more power in this situation? That's critical. Okay, that's the first thing. And we have to offer choices. That's a great way for kids to feel powerful and valuable and heard. And we all know we do a lot of choices during the day. And I always say preschool teachers are masters at this. But even for ourselves, we might say, do you want the red bowl or the purple bowl? If we can do that and they choose, we might be able to mitigate some of these power struggles that we get into with them. And then another big piece, and there's so many, Sunny, because I oftentimes spend 2 hours on this topic, but another one I want to address, I call it letting go of your fixed position. We easily get locked into, let's use that ice cream for breakfast example. We know why. If we go through and think, what are the interests of my child? Well, it tastes good and it's fun and it's forbidden. And our interests are, it's nutrition. It's not nutritional to have ice cream, right, for breakfast. So we have to look at common solution. What would meet the interests of both parties, and how can we both win in this situation? So I always say, hey, if that's a situation, come up with a protein smoothie. That's ice cream-like. It makes everybody happy.
I'm so glad you used that as an example. I actually did that unintentionally, I guess, in my own house because, of course, we do get into that. My kids are of the mindset that after they finish a meal, they should automatically have dessert. I'm like, dessert is a treat. You don't always get dessert. But one of the things I came up with was doing some sort of fruit smoothie. And because, we mix yogurt and some other good things into it, and they, sometimes peanut butter, I can sometimes even throw in some vegetables in there. They don't know about it. And they feel like I have addressed their need and that I've kind of, I guess, given in a little bit, whereas I'm like, hey, this works for me too because you're still getting the good stuff I want you to get, and it's kind of a compromise.
That's right. That's the big takeaway from this. It should be a win-win. Everybody should come away feeling great about it. And we're teaching our kids life skills, flexibility, compromise, and problem solving.
Well, I do want to give an example to everyone that's watching because you may be thinking about things in your own house where this has been an issue, but we do have Lisa submitted this situation, we'll call it, that she experienced when she was out with her kids. So, Jackie, I'm hoping you can give us some answers as to what Lisa could have done in this situation. So this is what she says. She says she was out to dinner with her 4-year-old, and her 4-year-old started walking on top of the dining tables, and she was also picking up food. The daughter was picking up food and throwing it at her sister, which her sister is about 6 years old. And the mother said, stop. And the 4-year-old said, no, you can't make me, and continued to do it. Now, that's a difficult situation because, first of all, you're out in public. There's a lot of eyeballs on you, which I think is pressure enough from parents, for parents to kind of figure out how to do the right thing in the right moment. But what would you say, just knowing, the little bit of the situation I gave you, what advice would you give Lisa? What could she do in the future to help mitigate that?
Absolutely. We've all been there. Lisa, I have to say, what I love, her first step was when she turned around and saw the daughter on the table and said to her, stop. Stop. Saying stop is so much more effective than no. Again, remember I said no is a trigger, and no begs for power struggle. Now, she also said stop and probably got the daughter's attention, and then the daughter came back with basically, you can't make me do that. And so the next thing to do at that point, once you are in that situation, like we were talking about, it's so stressful, there's all these people watching, I'm assuming, is that then the parent needs to take action, move in and take action, which would mean, and maybe Lisa, I'm sure you did this, go sweep her off the table, take her out. And at that point, the intensity is rising. I would probably take her outside of the restaurant and talk to her and have her self-calm for a minute. And then the next time when we were going to a restaurant, I would review the rules and say, feet are on the floor, right? Tables are for eating off. You tell them what they can do, what you want them to do, okay? Oftentimes parents, we don't move in. We might count 1, 2, 3, and we don't take action. So we have to say stop, move in, redirect.
So I love that you said, though, that stop is different than no, because in my mind, they're both negative situations. And I have a tendency, especially with my 2-year-old twins I was telling you about, to say no because I feel like it's a word they understand better than stop. Whenever I say stop, I'm wondering, oh, did they even know that word yet? Do I say it enough that they even know? But I think it's good to know that there's other words you can use besides no. Is there anything else besides stop that we can say that would maybe have the same effect besides no?
It might be freeze, it might be pause, something like that. It's good to come up with other words. Kids hear no, like I think research has shown about 200 times a day. No, don't stop, and all these things. So they kind of become deaf to it. And so the more we can come up with other words. And again, no is a major trigger. And you notice when they turn 2 and are starting to talk, those are some of the first words they say to us because they know there's power in it, right? So they say no. And so, yeah, stop, pause, freeze, anything like that. It also, what's beautiful about that, it gets kids to go into their brain, and this is probably way too much information, but a lot of the things we're talking about, we're in our emotional brain as opposed to our thinking brain. And when we say things like stop and pause, it makes them go to a different part of their brain and start to think about it and gets out of that emotion. And the same thing for us as parents. I always say to parents, when you have a stimulus, your child's walking across the table. Instead of reacting, stop, pause, think, count to 10, take some deep breaths. That's the same thing with sidestepping a power struggle. Step back, take a few deep breaths, then we can think about what are our solutions, what do I need, how do we have a win-win situation here?
All right, let's talk about ways we can try to prevent power struggles in the future. What are some good tips for
Okay.
parents?
Okay, so some of the things I always say is seek first to understand. We already talked a little bit about this. When kids feel heard and understood, they respond much better. And remember, our children, especially our spirited children, they wake up in the morning with a plan. All right. Maybe they got some new toys. Maybe they got a new bike. And they're thinking, I'm going to get up and I'm going to play with my toys, and or I'm going to hang out and, and ride my bike today. And we get them up and we have a different plan. We say, oh, it's a preschool day. And that's the beginning of our challenges. So we have to seek first to understand where they're coming from, what their interests are. Okay, and that helps to bring down the intensity, and then we can work and cooperate. And in that situation, actually, you want to have a little sign or tell them the night before, hey, by the way, tomorrow is a preschool day. And then you can mitigate some of that power struggle in the morning. So that's one thing, seek first to understand. We have to find yes, and we've been talking about that. When you're, how do I give more power to my child in this situation? An example of that is, let's say you're struggling over diaper changes. And the first thing you think about, most of the time, we just scoop them up and take them there. They don't like it. That would be like we're watching TV and our partner comes in and turns it off and says it's time for bed. We don't like that. So with our kids, for a diaper change, we give them a warning. I love timers. So I might set the timer and say, in 5 minutes, we're going to do a diaper change. Okay, they're playing, and when the timer goes off, that's their signal, and they probably still don't want to break away. And then we say to them, where do you want to do your diaper change? So they feel powerful. Do you want to do it here or in the bedroom? Okay, do you want to get the diapers or the wipes? So we start enrolling them and getting them involved in the process. So let's say they choose the bedroom and you go into the bedroom and then they're still balking at this diaper change. You have to keep going. You have to say, do you want to do it on this bed or on the floor? And eventually they will come around. And I know parents say to me all the time, oh, that sounds so exhausting. I don't have that much energy and I don't have that much time. And all I can say is it saves time in the long run. And you're building a relationship of cooperation, okay? And the kids feel powerful and valuable, and they feel heard and understood. So finding yes. And here's the other thing, when they're doing things right, catch them doing it right and acknowledge that. That's the best form of discipline. So when they come for a diaper change, or when we go to a restaurant and they're sitting at the table nicely, acknowledge them with a hug or thank you, you know what I'm saying? Because kids want to be acknowledged. They're really trying to do and please us. So catch them doing it right. And make it fun. The best part about this age group, from 2 till about 8, they love fun things. So in that moment too, with Lisa, something else you could do, which would probably enroll the whole restaurant, you could play the game of Simon Says. Simon Says, put your feet on the ground, if your kids know that game. So you want to make it fun. Or Simon Says, if we're having a power struggle about brushing teeth, Simon Says, brush your teeth. Okay, we can power struggle over just about absolutely everything. We know that, right? From the moment we get up, whether it's getting out of bed, getting our clothes, going to eat, going to school, whatever, and it continues on all day. So we have to be flexible and teach them and figure out, can I be flexible on this issue? And safety, there's certain things, aggression, we aren't flexible on. But others, we could say, okay, I can let this one go.
I always think about that at the beginning of the day and actually throughout the day, pick your battle, Sunny. Okay, is this a battle that you really want to fight with your child? Or do you know that something else is probably going to come up later in the day, and that's a bigger battle that you want to pick? So that kind of goes along with what you're saying. Pick your battles, right?
Exactly. And the thing is, we're such role models with our kids, and we have to teach them, and they're watching us, how to bring down the intensity, how to problem solve, how to do this win-win cooperation. So when our kids go into this, if we can have a positive view of it and say, boy, this is great, my child is growing up and learning these great life skills. And if we can bring a positive attitude to it, it helps us get through the day better, and our children too. Because at the end of the day, Sunny, it's our relationship with our kids that get us through these teen years and on. So that's what we're building for.
All right. Jackie Hartman, thanks so much, Jackie, for being with us today, hanging out with us and teaching us more about power struggles with our kids. And thanks to everyone else for checking out our hangout today. Be sure to check out the Parent Connection and Scripps Health. If you want to check out Parent Connection, it's sandiegoparent.com and just learn a little bit more about the different resources that they offer new parents and decide if you'd like to become a member. And for us here at New Mommy Media, we would love for you to check out our podcast. Everything is free and available on our website as well as on iTunes. And we have free apps where you can listen to all of our episodes. If you enjoyed today's Hangout, please share it with another parent so we can help them out as well. And we will see you on the next Hangout. Have a great one.